This is, that worked out great.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, this is Travis Lee, who lives actually just a few miles away from me. Oddly enough, has nothing to do with, our location has nothing to do with why he's here. He's over here. He's over here.
Yeah.
I was looking for somebody to talk with about direct mail with you guys, and more specifically, a little more aggressive direct mail than you might typically have and stuff. And Travis and I have a mutual friend, Dan Kennedy, who I've talked about many times, and I got to know Travis and his dad. I thought I met him. Maybe I didn't. I'm 68, and and so and Dan Kennedy, wildly endorses these guys. I do too. They have a company called 3D Results. But let me tell you a little bit about Travis before we kick this thing up. Let me give a little housekeeping. Obviously, we always record this. So because, we have a lot of people who watch the recordings, and we also have a lot of people who go back and watch it again and take more notes, because we have a lot of information to share here. And if you have questions, go into the Q&A. I will be monitoring those. As always, if I don't get to your question during, because he and I are just going to be talking. There's not going to be any visuals other than props, which he will certainly have. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And I think that's about it. If I don't get to your questions during the program, I certainly will get to them at the end of this thing. So let me tell you a little bit about Travis. Travis is, it says here, he's an internationally known expert in getting direct mail delivered. International. Well, for me, that means I've spoken in Cleveland.
Yeah, but, one person in Canada has heard of me. So
there we go. That's even better, right? He's co-founder, president of 3D Mail. It generates huge returns, and I can tell you that for thousands of businesses each year, using his innovative and effective direct marketing strategies. He's the creator of the 3D Mail direct marketing system, through which his company provides specialized direct mail, ready-to-use sales letters to thousands of clients around the world. He is, like I say, he's from nearby. He like me, he loves spending time with his family, and the connection that he has with my smoking hot wife Kay is they are both Washington State Cougars. So,
you got it.
And he's a very big Cougar fan, goes to all the games and everything like that. So, Travis, thank you for joining us today. This is going to be cool because it's not about something digital.
Yes.
We're not talking about something digital. We're talking about direct mail, and we're talking about how companies, specifically the B2B companies that we're talking to right here, and how they can use it to generate leads, reinforce relationships in general, grow their business. So let me ask you this. First, I got the first question is a question about direct mail. Then the second question will be about you. So my first question is, why are we talking about direct mail?
Well, in a now overly digital world, it is becoming increasingly more and more important to reach out in a non-digital way. So I'll give you some examples here. And as I'm going through, keep in mind, as I'm going through all of this, this is not the toolbox, and this is not a replacement for email or pay-per-click advertising or SEO or any of that stuff. But it is meant to complement all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So, but why direct mail now in 2019? So just some stats. 50% of consumers say they pay more attention to postal mail than email. 62% of consumers say they enjoy checking their mailbox. I don't think there's 62% of people who enjoy checking their email inbox. Maybe they do. Most I talk to don't.
65 You've got mail.
Yeah. Well, so when I do this, when I go and I speak, I show this cool cartoon. and it shows it, top is 1995. Ding, you've got mail, and the guy's happy. And now, 2015, I think, is when it was. Ding, you've got mail, and he's pissed off.
Yeah.
Right? So 65% say they receive too much email. 92% retrieve their mail, not their email, their mail every day. 77% read and sort it the same day. And here's a big one for our guys on the call here today, and why we're going to be talking about this in a B2B fashion, which is where we probably do more consumer-based stuff, but it's not by a whole lot, right? But 59% of executives prefer printed resources to online resources. Mm-hmm. So if you are one of those people who say, my catalog's online now, that research paper is online, that case study is online, you are leaving 60% of the people who would prefer to have something physical in their hand. You're leaving them to go and retrieve something that they would prefer not to go and retrieve online. So what does that all mean? It means analog, physical paper, stuff that we can see and feel and touch is every bit as important as it was 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago. In some cases, even more important because of the digital overload that we have. And that's what we're looking to do here. We are looking to find a place where we're not nearly as competitive with all the other things that the digital world provides, right? So not only are you competing with potentially your competitors, you're competing with all the emails they get from Google, all the emails they get from all the magazines and retail stores they subscribe to, all the Amazon emails they get. So we are finding an analog way, a way to be in a less competitive place, certainly not competition free. For some of you, it may be competition free from direct competitors, and finding a way to market and meet and take advantage of a marketing media that a lot of people are leaving behind, even though they should not. It is a perfectly viable thing to still be doing. I get asked all the time, what's the post office? What's going to happen to the post office? Generally speaking, nothing, right? The post office as we know it is going to be the same in your lifetime.
Yeah, not in our lifetime.
There's going to be some subtle changes. Yeah. They might get rid of Saturday delivery, right? So now they are going to have 1/6 of the cost, right, to deliver mail. There might be some other things that you see. I'll give a perfect example. So on the East Coast, where probably most of our listeners are listening, most mail carriers still deliver directly to a mailbox or to a home, right? They walk up at the driveway and stick it in. Here on the West Coast, we now have cluster boxes. So whenever you get a new housing development, they're 20 houses are all in a box, in a lockbox. Think of like an apartment, right? So those are the subtle changes. But to get a letter from Los Angeles to New York in 3 days for 55 cents, those are not going to change anytime soon, right? The price might go up a little bit, but it's here to stay.
Let me point out that, and I just want to remind people that when, don't get enamored by digital because it's the shiny object.
Yeah.
What we want to have happen with marketing is we want to be, we number one, we have to get people's attention. Okay. That's the very first thing we have to do. We have to get their attention. And the point of whether you are you in a crowd of people, and when you're in a crowd of people, like if you look at your inbox today, and you know what I'm talking about, you open up your email and you look at your inbox, and basically what I call it, that's playground shouting is what that is that you're trying to shout louder than the next person. But in fact, most companies, and in particular B2B companies, do a terrible job of getting attention in that list of emails, right? Because the subject lines don't grab people's attention. And direct mail, like Travis said, there might be less mail in the mailbox today, as we all know, but we all check our mail. I mean, when you say the 92%, who are these 8% who are not checking their mail? I mean, what? I mean, are they hermits? What are they? They're not checking their mail because they're not getting any mail.
Yep.
That's why they're not checking their mail. And so what we've got a small amount of competition. We pay attention to our mail, and mail is sensory. Mail is very sensory. You're touching it, right? You're seeing it, you're touching it. I mean, you can, even smell it, hear it. I mean, all that stuff, right? That we're going to be talking about, right? And so I think it's really important that we realize that a lot of us are leaving something on the plate.
Yep.
By not taking advantage of direct mail. Sorry, go ahead, Travis. I will continue to interrupt you.
No, and please do.
But I do.
I'm passionate about this. I can get rolling. So I mean, everything you said is exactly right. It is becoming increasingly more difficult to gain attention. The only job of advertising is to gain attention so you can deliver a message. And I don't care if you're doing television ads. I don't care if you're doing billboards, radio, if you're still in the yellow pages, right? I don't care what media you're using. The whole idea of marketing and advertising is to gain attention to deliver a message. And if you are, like you said, just trying to shout louder than everybody else in a certain media, you will have some success, but you may not have all the success that you could possibly have, right? And so that's what we're looking to do. Find another way where we still have to shout, but maybe not quite so loud. And maybe not quite over so many voices. That's what we're looking to do.
Right. So how do we do that? I mean, all right. So, and not just as direct mail, but also when it comes that we want to make people, because then the next step, we get their attention. Then the next step, got to open it.
Yep. So Steve kind of hit the nail on the head. We are a non-traditional direct mail house, right? So we do postcards and traditional letters and that kind of stuff. But most of what we do is what we call 3D mail. And when we say 3D, I literally mean three-dimensional. So we've got things, really two categories that we kind of lump our stuff into. The first thing are self-mailers. So I've got a couple props here. This is the carrot top portion of the event, right? So we will actually send a real pill bottle in the mail if we're going to solve somebody's headaches. So we literally put a letter inside of there, put the lid on. So it's child-proof lock. It ain't going anywhere. We put the address label right here. This one isn't an exact address label. We can talk about how I use this one, though, later, because I think it's very applicable to the people in the audience. But we put a label on there. We put postage on there. And your recipient literally gets this in the mail. So that's
and I think that's another thing is that people don't realize you can send
darn near anything through the post office. Yeah. So
you can send almost anything.
As long as it has the right postage and as long as it isn't illegal, unethical, right? All the stuff you're not going to do anyway.
Right.
You can't send illegal substances through the mail, right? But you can send this directly through the mail. I've got another one here. We use these all the time, especially if you're going to help somebody make or save money. So this is a real vinyl bank bag. So it's got a zipper at the top, right? And we open it up and we put a letter right inside there. And then on this unprinted side, we put the mailing label, we put the postage, and now this thing shows up directly in the mailbox of your recipient, whether they're at the home, whether they're at the office, whether they're at the home office. Where is this thing going to end up? In a pile of mail, right? So you all get it every day, and you're probably getting a trade journal every few days. You're probably getting credit card bills. You're getting the water bill. You're getting correspondence and that kind of stuff. But when something like this shows up, which one are you opening first? Which one is getting the attention first? And what I like to tell people is that may seem inconsequential, right? That may seem unimportant to be the first thing. But the analogy I give is, let's say we're going back to the 1950s here, and we've got door-to-door salesmen, and we've got the vacuum cleaner guy knocking, and right behind that guy is the pots and pan guys. Who's going to sell more, the guy first or the guy second? Well, very likely the guy who's first is going to be selling the most. So we want to make sure that we are seen, that we are heard, that we are read, and more importantly, we stand out from all those things, other things that they get. And you had mentioned, Steve, that There's less mail in the mailbox, and that is absolutely true. There's no denying that. But those numbers are skewed because of the amount of correspondence type mail that is no longer used. So paying bills, I can't remember the last time I mailed a check for a bill. I pay it all online, right? So the volume is down because of we're not sending as many birthday cards. If we're going to host a baby shower, we're putting the invites on Facebook instead of mailing them out. So personal correspondence is down. Commercial correspondence is still way up, especially publications, catalogs, newsletters, magazines. Believe it or not, all that stuff is up. Now, it took a dip 10 years ago, right? Like everything did. People canceled Sports Illustrated. People stopped ordering as much out of catalogs. But ever since about 2011, commercial mail has been ticking up and up and up and up and up and up and up. So it is less competitive because your direct competitors aren't doing it, but you still have commercial mail being sent in new records every single year.
Now, yesterday I was on a consulting call yesterday with a client who's actually in this industry, and we were talking about using using different types of lead generation tools, and and I started talking about direct mail and specifically like 3D mail. But before I got into the 3D mail conversation, I brought up direct mail, and they immediately said, "Oh, that doesn't work." I said, "What do you mean it doesn't work?" And they said, "Oh, we've done mailings, and there's we never get any results." I said, "Describe to me what your last mailing looked like." And they of course describe like this trifold self mailer, bulk mailed, and I said, you got to ask yourself this question. The question: what would you do with a trifold, direct mail piece? And it looks exactly like
something like this,
like junk mail.
This is a credit card offer. Yeah, trifolded.
And if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So if it looks like junk mail, then it's going to be there. It's going to immediately be tossed. But the idea is, again, number one, we have to get their attention. And the second thing is they have to open it. So like if you send a pill bottle, you send a bag, and there's and there are hundreds and hundreds of other examples that you can use. You can get people's attention. We actually built our business 33 years ago. Our first mailing, we sent out a 5-cent sugar daddy inside of, and it just was in a number 11 envelope, but it was fat mail. It was lumpy mail, like what you're talking about, because people are going, what's inside? What's inside? And then they opened it up, and we had a message that said something along the lines of, do your customers treat you like a sugar daddy or something like that, And
Awesome.
it literally just launched our business, because of the response. And that was 33 years ago.
No, you're exactly right. And that's the whole point, is to get it open, get it read. I showed you these things that actually we call self-mailers, but just like you described, we have inserts or enclosures, right? So I got a couple here. This is something we'll send in a box, but if you just want to get your foot in the door, we send a little squishy foot, right? So I've got a guy, most successful case study, this guy, he does, he's a bill collector, right? I mean, receivables management, I think is what he calls himself. Okay, receivables
management. Yeah, that's different.
Right. But so now he's sending this out to cosmetology schools in and around his area. So I guess cosmetology schools have a bad default rate, right? So he's sending this out. He wants to get his foot in the door. This is going in a little box. It's going in a little envelope. This is fun. We have these little white gloves. So if you offer any kind of white glove service, this thing lays in an envelope. I'll be honest, sometimes this stuff can increase your postage rate, right? So you've got it is a consideration. How does that ROI shake out? How does that return on your investment shake out? But this thing lays flat, goes into an envelope, and if you offer any kind of white glove service, so most obvious answer for this is I've got a dentist in Indiana, northern Indiana, and they offer a white glove service where they come and pick you up. I mean, this is like, replacement. I mean, this is high-end stuff, right? And so they come and pick you up. They use the non-opioid treatments. When they're done doing the procedure, they put you in a room where you can sleep and recover, and you've got, and then they deliver you back home. So they literally have a white glove service. But that's all a way of saying there's a million different ways to get your message out there.
Now, didn't Walt Bergeron use that?
I'm not sure if he used these. I know he used these. Walter used our silver platter because he
that's what it was. Oh, yes. Yeah. I'm sorry, because I do want to. Yeah, that's right. It was Walt used that because I've had Walt has also been on this.
Cool. Yeah. With it, yeah. So he had that. Basically, if you break any electrical component, you send it to him and he can fix it. I think was his business, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
No, and he used these all the time.
Silver platters.
Yep.
Silver platters. Yeah.
Yep. For a message so important, it must be delivered on a silver platter. That's how and that's the important thing here. I don't want people to miss is you've got to tie the thing that you're sending to the message, right? So you can't just send a silver platter and then say, "Dear sir, madam, let me tell you about the 500 ways that we're better than everybody else." No, you got to tie it into the deal, right? You got to explain why they're getting it and how that ties into you, right? So there is, a little science meets art to this, right? But by and large, by substituting one of these things we've talked about with maybe just a regular envelope or something like that, and now you've got a headline and an opening paragraph or two that explains why they're getting it. I know some of you are thinking, I'm in the B2B space. I market to the C-suite. This can't work. This hogwash, right? It works, right? Well, and oftentimes we will address that. Dear Mr. Prospect, as you can see, I've sent a silver platter. Why have I done this? And I know it may seem silly to get something like this in the mail, but Mr. Prospect, you're so important that I had to do something crazy to make sure I got in front of you. And I'm sure you did some crazy, incredible things in your life to get where you are, right? So we kind of flip it on them, right?
Well, and also, I mean, two things. One is, and I stress this over and over again, and those of you that follow me, I do. I say in the B2B world, which is where I work, right? We are not businesses doing business with businesses. We are people doing business with people. They're still people, and we should be talking to them like people. And as because of my book, my book, Uncopyable, we have to look for ways to differentiate ourselves from the competition. We have to do things that are different that might, we might think, this might be a little bit wacky, or this might, and you know what? Yes, that you got to do stuff that break the rules of competition. And I can't think of anything that is easier to do, quite frankly, than to do mailings where you do, we love to do mailings where we have fun stuff that we send out.
Yep.
And I get my clients to do this stuff, and they get incredible results.
Yep. By and large, most people, when they get this stuff, when they receive it now, so I'm talking about your prospects or your customers or your unconverted, whatever it is, most of them get a chuckle. Most of them think it's funny. If you're going to, which by the way, in a B2B space, I always recommend a follow-up phone call because we're not limited by do not call lists and consumer protection, right? When you call and say, hey, I'm that guy that sent that foot, what's almost always going to happen is, because you're probably not going to talk to the decision maker right out of the gate. You're going to get the gatekeeper. You're going to get a personal assistant. You're going to get a receptionist. And I'm that guy that sent that foot. Oh my goodness, we couldn't believe someone sent us a foot, and Charlie saw it right away, and Charlie showed it to me. You know what I mean? So you get that. And what I always tell people is, I certainly don't think of business as, clown-worthy fun. However, if you send this stuff to a prospect or somebody and they get grouchy about it, I don't want to work with that guy. Anyway, right?
I've never once heard anybody get grouchy about anything. And those of you who know me, I will do some, I'll do some outrageous stuff.
Yeah, we fell from the same tree when it comes to outrageous advertising. That's for sure.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I have no qualms with that. And we've always had the attitude that if people don't enjoy it, then we don't want to work with them. That has never been an issue. Yep. People love to get fun stuff, because it breaks up the monotony of, just of the day. And most certainly, if you're thinking in terms of competing with digital, this slam dunks digital every day, but you can use them together.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we teach people, and if anyone has ever read Chet Holmes's book, The Ultimate Sales Machine, awesome book, great book, very, simpatico with what Steve and I have taught over the years.
Chet Holmes, the ultimate sales machine. Absolutely.
Yep. And he's got this thing called a Dream 100 deal, where you target 100 of your ideal clients. The 100 is inconsequential. Dream 100 sounds better than Dream 64, right? So, but what he encourages people to do is send out unique and we were teaching this before I even knew Chet, and he just had a cool name for it. And so now I kind of borrow it, right? And so, he says, send cool things out, then follow up with email, then follow up with a phone call. LinkedIn wasn't around when he was alive. He died a few years ago now. Maybe it might be close to 10 years ago now. But anyway, if LinkedIn was around when he was writing his book, he would have said, connect with them on LinkedIn, right? So you're using all those things. I've got a guy who he's an advertising agency for small banks and credit unions. And what he likes to do is kind of infiltrate these groups on LinkedIn, right? And so he gets going, he starts posting and commenting, and he kind of gets his foot in the door, right? And then what he does is he culls a small group from that group, and now he starts sending them feet. And I love this one, especially in the B2B space. It works extremely well. This one works extremely well for him. It's a big, giant, fake express envelope. So goes out at regular first class rate, right? But has the same effect as FedEx or Priority Mail, right? So the whole idea is show up differently. We're now the first thing they open, but instead of being $9 a piece for postage, it's $1.50 a piece for postage, right? And then he sends this stuff, right? And now he's kind of infiltrated the group within LinkedIn. Now he has his assistant going, cull a list, find the decision makers, find their addresses. He's already linked with them in LinkedIn. So he sends the cool stuff, and then he sends a LinkedIn message. Then he sends an email. He's got a sales team that is making cold calls anyway. So now they're making a slightly warmer call, right? And so that's how he uses all this stuff. I've got probably our single biggest niches with attorneys, which I know that's not in a B2B world, but just to give you an example, what they will do. So as you can imagine with attorneys, especially like bankruptcy attorneys, there are publicly available lists of people who have had, foreclosure, a garnishment, whatever. What they're doing now is they're sending a piece like this, uploading that list to Facebook, and now they're hitting them from both sides. So now they're getting the direct mail piece, and now they're getting them in the digital world. So these are things, direct mail done right can make that bridge to the digital all that much better. And it really is a rising tide lifts all ships when you start doing multimedia in a smart way. And now all the efforts combined help the direct mail, it helps the digital, it helps the email, it helps the sales team making phone calls. That's what we're looking to do. I'm sure most of the people on this call have relatively long sales cycles, but relatively large lifetime value, right? And so now if we can make all those things rise up, and we can take a 6-month sales cycle to a 4-month sales cycle, a 6 weeks to a 3-week, whatever it is. That's what we're looking to do. We are looking to do things that complement all the other marketing that we do. And direct mail, when done well and well thought out, it can be done exceedingly well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're not really getting into, writing copy or anything like that, but certainly because I can't stress enough how, and again, those of you that have read my book, I talk about what I call next step marketing. That too often, if you see a trade advertisement or you see a mailing or you see an email and stuff, that when we reach out to our marketplace, we tend to try to jump steps, and try to get people, literally to the sale, as quickly as possible. When the fact is, and especially in the B2B world, there are steps, there are connections. The most recent study that I saw, and I'm not sure how accurate this was, but the most recent study said something like that. It in the B2B world, it takes something like 7 to 8 contacts to make a sale. Now, 7 to 8 contacts, okay, and it's probably going to take several months, if not longer. A couple of years sometimes to close a deal. And what these things do for us is they can help shorten the cycle a little bit. We have to get the people's attention first. That's the first step. And then what's the next step? And we move them to the next step. And and like you were talking about combining it, having then say an email, a phone call, or something like that. Well, then also another mailing.
Yeah. Yes.
Quite frankly, I did a project with Emerson Electric a number of years ago, quite a few years ago, but it was so successful. It was really awesome. But we identified 50 really, really great prospects for these guys, right? Just 50. And it was shortly after Jack Nicklaus won the Masters, and now we're talking about a long time ago, but the thing that made it cool was that Jack had used a new putter that had a really big putter head on it, right? And so anybody who was a golfer, all of a sudden, I mean, that's just the way golfers are. They see Jack Nicklaus using a new putter. Like today, they see when they see Brooks Koepka and Rory and these guys, using a new club, they got to have it, right? Yep. Well, so what we did, we found out that these 50 people that we were trying to reach out to had like all but one of them played golf. So what we did was we took that putter and we took it apart. We contacted the manufacturer and we had them ship us the grip, the shaft, and the putter head.
Yep.
And we mailed them out in 3 separate mailings. And we just said, and each mailing said something like, hey, if you follow golf, you saw Jack, and we at Emerson Electric, we don't, it's too often we have parts and we have things out there and we can't put, but at Emerson Electric, we're going to put it all together for you. Right.
Awesome. And
so then the conclusion was that if you allowed a salesperson to come to see you, then the salesperson would bring you the putter.
Yeah.
Bring you the putter. Right. And we had 48 of the 49 people who played golf, 48 of them, took us up on that. And so that was, and that's why I keep using that example, even though it was so long ago, is because it just shows how 3D mail lumpy, is such a powerful tool. Now, and of course we spent some money on that because it was worth it.
Yep.
That's the other thing, is that in the B2B world, like you pointed out, Travis, many times the sales are high.
Yep.
The cost to sell a machine, to sell, a CNC machine, tens of thousands of dollars, right?
Yep.
So to spend $100 to get a new lead should not be that much.
Yep.
Should not be that much.
And that's something I teach, is to know that customer value, right? And most people are sickeningly cheap when it comes to try to get that new prospect or that new customer, right? They start counting pennies. They start counting pennies on this end when there's multiple commas on this end, right? Yeah. And it doesn't make sense, right? They'll spend 50, 100 grand on a booth at an event somewhere. But then they won't do anything to drive traffic to the booth because we don't want to spend $6 a lead to have them actually come to our booth after we've spent 50 grand for a giant booth on a corner spot, right? So whatever it is, right? So it's very important to know your economics, right? I will admit the big consumer marketers kind of get this a little bit better by and large than the B2B folks do, especially if they're doing our kind of marketing. So if you see consumer direct response television, infomercials, perfect example. They know it's going to cost us this much to run this spot. We're going to get this many phone calls. It's going to lead to this many sales, right? And they know their numbers. So don't count pennies, right? I realize everyone has money that they have a finite amount of. However, you need to be smart about it, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not telling you here to spend $1 million frivolously, but you really got to know what's a new customer worth to us. What is it worth to get into the door? What's it worth for the final job? What's it worth once we get one job and they got 22 more jobs that we could get, right? So don't be cheap on the front end. We had a business where we would basically go negative for 9 to 12 months before we saw a positive return. It was in a B2B space. And we knew that if we got someone to raise their hand to say, I'm interested, and we could now send them our stuff, And now we could put a sales rep on them. And now that sales rep is now making a connection. Their first order might have been $120, might have been $200. We're still losing money. However, we knew after 12 months that client was going to be worth, and I forget the exact numbers now, $988, let's just say, right? Well, now they're positive in month 12 and every month after that. So as long as we don't screw it up, now we thought we were pretty good at not screwing things up. So as long as we didn't screw it up, if we could get them to raise their hand, 9 to 12 months later, we were going to have a positive return. So we were willing to go negative on that first order. So that's important to know those things too. Now, this was it was a business that was, what's the right word? It had a lot of reorder potential, mostly small stuff. But even that said, it was routine for us to have $8, $12, $15, $20,000 orders as well. So while the average order may have only been $800 or $900, we'd also sell computer systems to 2% of them at 20 grand a pop or more, right? So that made it important. That made up for those things. But realize what your money is. Realize what it's about, what it's worth to you.
And in this business, in the manufacturing community, like we said, a lot of these people that we're talking to are some of them, the prices are not that high. But like yesterday in my conversation with the gentleman, theirs was I think their lowest price was like a $50,000 machine or something like that. Which makes me want to think about, okay, if I find somebody who I think is just the best moose, my highest qualified moose out there, if I can find 10 of these people, what would I send to these people to just really just knock them out? And that's when it makes me think about shock and awe. And because shock and awe, which to me it's sort of like it's where we start to really ramp up our 3D mailings. I've got an example of a shock and awe package that we've used here. In fact, I used it recently to get my new publisher. Do you have anything there? Or do you want me to show what I got here?
No, show what you got. I didn't bring anything. I can certainly talk about some of the stuff we've done over the years, though. But let's do it. Because
Walt Bergeron, who those of you that might not remember Walt, he had a shock and awe package that he showed that had a video player built inside and stuff like that. But shock and awe is basically where we are sending something in the mail, a 3D package in the mail that they just kind of go, wow.
Yep.
What is this? Right? Holy cow, this is really amazing. Well, we were in the process of having conversations with multiple publishers to take, number one, we wanted somebody to take Uncopyable and actually just, new edition, bring it out in paperback and do that. And also Kay and I both had a couple more ideas for books. So we've been talking to some different publishers, and we met one that I liked a lot. I thought, this guy's exactly who I want to work with. And so we were kind of going back and forth in what, trying to sell him on us. And he's kind of, saying, are we a good fit or something like that? So we sent out, and everybody knows my color is orange, right? So we sent
big orange box,
orange box, right? And inside, wrapped in orange, orange paper. I mean, we got, copy of my book. We had, we stuck stuff like here. We have an orange umbrella.
Cool.
Mary, got your orange umbrella? I know she does. Other stuff, we got orange sunglasses. We got all this stuff. And we were basically just saying, hey, look, this is the type of relationship, we are going to be very aggressive about this. We want to work with you. And here's who we are. Well, then we got we literally the next day we get a call back from him, and he says, in all the years of being a publisher, and he has a lot of top selling books, he said not a single author has ever sent anything like that to him, and he was just blown away. And we signed the agreement a week later. So
awesome.
You see stuff like that. You can really, really go crazy with, and I say go crazy. You can have so much fun with it. And, when you send something like that to people and you have a purpose for it, right? Because I'm saying to them, you see, look at what we can do. and playing with our orange and we connected a message with every single thing that was in that box, connected the message to it. So did you say you had some other examples of something like that, or just?
I don't have anything to physically show, but we've done stuff very similar over the years. So I've got first off, if you've got a book, if you've got a publication, we always send that. Mm-hmm. So if they've got, like I said, if they've got a book or a magazine or a publication, we always send that. Even if it's just white papers, we send that. But most of it is that cool, fun stuff. It's the umbrella. It's I've got a client who coaches dentists, right? So B2B, right? And what he does is when he sends out a prospect package, he gets a mug and he puts the dentist's name on it, right? Every single dentist gets a mug with his name on
mug.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And not a mug with his logo, right? Which is what most people would do. A mug with the doctor's name on it, right? So fun stuff like that. I told you about,
and it's like that's exactly right. Because see, like I say, like the orange umbrella or the orange sunglasses, our logo is not anywhere on those things, but it's orange.
Yeah, exactly. You're still
so everybody
that
connects
seed.
Orange to Steve, right? Everybody connects orange to Steve. Nito Cobain, who is president of High Point University. He's a Horatio Alger Award winner. He owns Great Harvest Bread, board of directors, BB&T Bank. You really hate the guy, but he does a mailing I think he told me every month or every quarter, something like that. He has his top 100.
Yeah,
like you say, he has a list of 100 people that he feels are really his top 100 people to make, because he does speeches, and consulting and things like that, and every and I'm going to say every quarter, he sends a book to them. Now, it's not always his books. What he will do is he will find a book. Like one time he called me and he said, "Hey, I want to send your book out to these people." Mm-hmm. And he got 100 books and he sent it out to people with just a note that just said, "Hey, I found this book to be really, really great. I recommend it to you. Here's a copy for you." And he also got me to sign all of them, right?
Oh, cool.
So, which made them that much more valuable.
Yeah.
And and then sent them out. So again, another example of using 3D mail to kind of just reach out and so every quarter, his top 100 know they're going to get a book from Nito that they should read.
Yep, a little package, a little something of, hey, you need almost a curator of information towards that list, right? And he's able to stop the flood, and now he's turned himself into a confidant, an unpaid consultant, somebody that they look forward to getting stuff from, right? And so if you can, if you can go from, this guy sent me this again, to I wonder what he's going to send next, that's a big difference when it comes to the mindset of a prospect or somebody that you're trying to convert, right? I mean, that is, I hear it all the time. "Hey, Travis, I got on your list because I kept hearing all the cool things you sent. Can't wait till you send me something." Well, how much easier is that guy to sell?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because then when the lightning bolt comes out of the sky, strikes him and says, "Hey, I need to do some kind of a mailing or something like that. What should I do?" Boom.
Yep. We got an email from a guy just the other day. Said, "I've been lurking on your list forever. I've never bought anything, but because of all the cool stuff you've sent me, I'm emailing you first." Right? And it was a request for proposal. Right? He wanted a quote. And we will have to screw it up to not get the business at this point, right? I mean, we'll have to screw it up somehow. Right. That's a good position to be in. And even then, I'm not saying, I think we're 100% competent in what we do. Even then, we could probably screw something up a little bit, be an hour late getting back to him when we say we're going to get back to him, and we're still probably going to get the business, right? Yeah. So we try to be as perfect as we can, but that's a great position to be in, be in that.
So if we were to boil this down, what are the top, 3, 4, 5 reasons why we should use 3D mail, or why, direct, we know direct mail is, let's just assume people got they once you explain it to them, they go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Right.
Yep.
Okay. But why 3D mail?
Well, first off, you get that attention that you just can't get anywhere else, right? I showed you the thing. What's going to get more attention? Now, again, this is a consumer mailing, but you've all seen it. This is a credit card offer, trifold thing, right? Like everybody sends out. What are you going to look at? This, or if this thing shows up, right? So number one is you've got to stand out. If you don't stand out, if you don't get attention, you can't get it. You can't get through all the clutter. Number two now is you've got to have a good message inside too, right? And we talked about this. This isn't a call on copywriting and that kind of stuff, but it still has to contain a good message inside. So you've got to have that way to get attention. You got to have that good message inside. If you're doing any kind of sales follow-up, whether it be email or phone call, if you've got a sales team that's already at the ready to make calls and they're calling behind something like this, so you send this out on a Monday, it arrives on a Wednesday, you're calling on a Friday. Now you've made that call just so much easier. So it can what my mentor Bill Glazier calls soften the beachhead for the other things, right? So that's another thing that it can do. Really, it's to just gain darn attention, right? What I like to tell people is, the Super Bowl ads cost more than anything else on television. The most expensive marketing you can do is a Super Bowl ad, and it's not because the companies are great and yada yada yada. It's because they're guaranteed attention, right? I mean, it has and that's what you're looking to do. And so when I go and speak, I say this can give you a Super Bowl worthy attention getter, but for a fraction of the cost. Because if we send something cool and unique, we are guaranteed to get attention. And then but you still got, so it all comes, direct mail comes down to three things. And if you can get the three things right, you're going to do a good job. That's the list, and we've talked about that a little bit. That's the offer that you put inside. So what's the next step? And then the third thing is, what do you actually send? So it's list, offer, and then what we call media, what we actually send. If you can get those things right, and I actually called it the three-legged stool, and you can get that stool to sit equal, right? If one's shorter than the other, you still might be able to sit. That's what we're looking to do. And so you've got to have a good list with a matched up offer, and now you can really plus it versus a trifold or a number 10 envelope when you start sending fun stuff like pill bottles and bank bags and fun stuff like that.
Right. Everybody knows that I talk about, I expanded into my marketing pyramid. And my marketing pyramid, number one is market.
Yep.
Right. Who's your moose? What's the list? Right. Number two is message. Right. Which is the, message to market match. Right. You got to have a moose bait.
Yeah.
Right. That's the message. Number three is the media. Right. Then what media you use. And number four is the moment. Now, because we don't always know the moment that they're going to be choosing to make a decision. But we can encourage that. Yes. And we can kind of move that moment up a little bit closer when we do these other three right.
Yep.
So that's exactly, we're totally 100% on the same page there. If you have any questions, jump in here and let me know what these questions are. Before I cut us off, we're kind of getting near the what I would call the hard stop part. But of course, if we don't have any questions, then we're not going to keep you on here any longer. While we wait to see if there's if there are some questions, what is I told you about the putter, the Jack Nicklaus putter, right? And I've had some other that to me has always been my all-time favorite thing that I've done because it was so much fun. But what do you remember what obviously there's got to be something that jumps out at you and you say, this was so cool. This was so much fun. And it really, really worked. What do you got?
Yeah, what do you got? I figured you'd ask this one. So I thought about this last night. So the best one, the most unique thing we've ever sent, we worked with a company called Action Coach, and they're a coaching group. They're all over the United States and Australia. Started in Australia. I forget the guy's name who started it. But anyway, they're a big coaching group, right? And the coaches by territories, they're basically franchises. But we were working with the national company. It might have been the international, but not important, right? They were looking for more sponsors for their live events that they do, right? So they put on 1 or 2 big events where all the coaches and all the students come, and then they have a whole bunch of little satellite ones too, right? And they were looking for sponsors, and they were mainly going after kind of the big marketing providers, if you will. So they were going after email the Get Response and Vertical Response and Constant Contact, those types of companies, right? People that they can hook up with their students. And so these are going after fairly large, marketing programs, CMOs, directors of marketing, the sponsorship arm of those divisions, and they wanted more sponsors. And so we found mannequin right arms. They were probably, it was life size, right? So whatever, 18 inches long or so. And we put it into a box. And just like you, we put some tissue paper and we put some other material in there. And the headline was, we would give our right arm to meet with you.
Yeah.
And so they were all right arm mannequins, right? Because you got a difference, right?
You got to have that right arm. Yeah.
So that was probably the most unique thing we've ever sent.
That's fun.
So yeah, and then
that's great.
Yeah.
I do have a question. We have a question here from my buddy Robbie. You probably don't have a solid answer for this question, but if you try a mailing or a 3D mailing, how long do you let it percolate before you try something else? Or let me kind of rephrase that for you, Robbie. How long do you let it percolate before you follow up?
Yeah.
Or before you do, next, what's your next connection and stuff? Got a comment about that?
Yeah. So it kind of depends on the application, what you're trying to do. So if we're doing this Dream 100 sequence that we've talked a little bit about, I am mailing something every month and then doing all those other touch points in between. So what I like to tell people is send a direct mail piece the first of the month, email 1 week, LinkedIn the next week, phone call the next week, right? Some combination of those 2 or 3. Give them a break for the last month and then repeat, right? And you do the whole thing again. Let's say now let's use an example since you guys are almost a year out. Let's just use an example of a trade show. Got a trade show booth. Like most places, if I want, I can buy the attendee list and I can start mailing them. I'm probably going to send them something every couple weeks leading up to the event. So what I'll probably do, let's just look at a calendar. Let's say the event is October 1st, right? Let's just say that's what we're working on.
Sure.
I'm going to send them something, say September 6th, probably even go out further than that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I might even go out 2 months.
Yeah, August 23rd, September 13th, September 27th. So I'm going to hit them like every 2 weeks. Big general rule of thumb with direct mail, every 14 to 20 days to kind of, if I'm doing kind of a condensed campaign where there's a deadline or something happening at the end. So that's kind of the big general rule of thumb. It depends on the business. The biggest thing is it depends on the application. What are we trying to get? What's the end result? Is it a trade show booth visit? Is it a phone call for a request for quote? Is it a meeting with whomever they're, right? So it kind of depends on the application. Big general rule of thumb is if I'm running a condensed campaign, I'm going to try to hit them every 14 to 20 days, do my follow-up. The Dream 100s, again, are a little different because I'm doing so much in between.
Right.
Chet talked about in his book, he wanted to get in front of the big 4 automakers. And so every month for a year, he sent them a different car part. So he'd send them a muffler 1 month. He'd send them a steering wheel another month. I'm not a car guy, but I imagine if you open up the hood, there's 1,000 things you could send them, right? Yeah. And so that's what he talked about. It was just like your putter guys, right? We had 49 of them. We wanted to get in front of them as many as we could. I mean, so another answer is you keep sending them stuff as long as people keep responding, right? And even then, if they're big enough accounts, right? So Chet was a sales trainer, right? So he wanted to get in front of people with big sales teams. That's kind of was his background with that. He would literally send them until he got the number. So if he was sending 100 and his goal was 50, he'd keep sending until he got in front of 50, right? Yeah. So, but he knew his economics.
I think for me, it has to do with what kind of offer are you putting in there, Robbie? Yep. What is it you want? What action step, call to action are you putting in there? Are you asking them to respond to this, or are you asking them to go to a website? So I would look at it like it's a campaign, and maybe like Travis says, is you have a campaign where each contact or that you are reaching out to them. You start out with the 3D mailing, and then maybe a week later you get an email, and then a week later they get a phone call or something like that, and then another mailing or something. So it really has to do with what is your offer, and a lot of people practice. I mean, I learned this the hard way. A lot of people practice that buy or die type of approach of you want to keep communicating with them, and ask them to respond.
Yep.
I mean, you really want to get them to respond to you, not just say, get more information here or something like that.
Yeah, and it depends on the offer is exactly right, and it depends on the recipient too. Are these prospects? Are these leads? Are they customers that bought peanut butter? Now we're selling them jelly just to make it as easy as possible. I mean, so if it's an unconverted lead that you've sat down and met with, and they're perfect, till they till they buy, die, or unsubscribe, right? Till they tell you to stop.
Yeah, they can tell you to stop.
So it depends on the offer, and it depends. I mean, it really goes back to the three things. It goes what's the list, and what's the offer, and what makes sense economically.
Right.
If it's $1 million account, how much of that $1 million are you willing to spend?
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah. So okay, so we don't have any other questions, but we are very close to our cutoff time. So that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to cut us off. And what I know you've got something. You got a little book. Where is it? I don't see it.
I brought one
there.
Yeah, I brought one. It's called our definitive guide to using 3D mail in your marketing campaigns.
Okay.
So it's a booklet, 48 pages, has,
it's got some great examples in there.
Yep. So all the things we talked about. Yeah. So we talked about the headlines and how to use the pill bottle and how to use the bank bag. We give you those ideas. So we give you, it's hard to see. We give you sample headlines and sample letters. I give you what we call a digital swipe file. So you'll be able to download, I think it's something like 42 different letter templates. So you're not, the biggest thing that we had when we started this business was, what letter do I send? So he said, all right, here are the letters you send, right? So we created the letters.
Right.
But if you go to webinar.3dmailresults.com, you'll go to a landing page and you can get that. So webinar, WEBINAR dot, the number 3, the letter D, MAILRESULTS.com. So webinar.3dmailresults.com. It's completely free. All I need is a mailing address. I mean, there's no free, but you got to pay $3 for this postage.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
Completely free. So you should be able to find it there. And then from there, it'll take you to my page and you can see some of the products. I've got video explainer videos and case studies. Click around. I mean, we've got, 40
and of course, if you forget or anything like that, just reach out to me and I can give you that information on how to reach out to Travis. So Travis Lee, thank you very, very much for joining me today. This is a lot of fun talking about this stuff. And for those of you that are watching, we'll be back again next month with another IMTS webinar. We'll be back again in a couple of weeks talking about IMTS. So thank you very much, Travis.
Thank you, Steve.
And thank you everybody for joining us today. Again, this is recorded. It'll be back up. It'll be up again by tomorrow. And always remember, be uncopyable.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
See ya.